Hey, what are you doing here? Has somebody been reading my Christmas list? Did somebody realize my Christmas list was just the lyrics of Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You? Shh, don't tell Santa. I don't think he figured it out yet. Anyway, since I have you here, just a quick disclaimer. If you're watching this, me, you, my Christmas tree, it means that I have decided to take what would have been a 3.5-hour video and I've broken it down into 3 parts. This was absolutely a last-minute decision, made mostly so that I didn't throw up in my mouth and cry. And so, here we go. Please enjoy part 1.
Last year, I broke down the plot and intricate lore of the TTCHFCCU, or Hallmark's Time to Come Home for Christmas cinematic universe. And now the time has come for me to yet again delve into Hallmark's cinnamon and pine-scented waters by diving deeply into the Hallmark Royal Christmas cinematic universe. Will there be a clear thread linking all of these films, the way the song Time to Come Home linked all of the movies in the TTCHFCCU? Will the rules of the Hallmark Green Eyes apply outside of the Twangyverse? And how many Hallmark Christmas movies is too many Hallmark Christmas movies? These are all questions I can now answer. That third one wasn't even a question I initially set out to ask, but life, it surprises you. There were a lot of different directions I could have gone. A Godwink Christmas, the Mrs. Miracle verse, Hallmark Christmas weddings. There was even a handful of seemingly Jane Austen-themed Hallmark Christmas movies, but I felt like the Hallmark Royal Christmas universe was the best place to start. And this is mostly because I do eventually want to delve into the Netflix Christmas cinematic universe, which I know is actually connected. The threads are obvious to even the most casual viewer, but you don't just hike Everest, okay? You gotta train. You gotta climb a few smaller mountains. You gotta build up to it. And so I thought getting a little extra practice with movies of a similar genre, Christmas, royalty, while also being able to see if the rules I discovered in the TTCHFCCU were applicable here, I may discover some sort of overarching Hallmark Christmas universe in the process. And that seemed like an exciting place to start. So, in my research and prep stage, I found 18 movies that seemed to match my criteria. Made by Hallmark, obviously, set at Christmas, and the story focuses on royalty, a royal family, a castle, a crown, or the title included the word prince or princess. That I felt would encompass everything I was looking for. But 18 movies seems insane, and I'm not crazy, so I said, let's cull that list. Let's take it down to just the movies that actually say royal in the title. That seemed like a more logical step. It cut the list in half. I was down to 9 movies, and that was perfect. I could go to Thanksgiving, travel home from Thanksgiving, watch 1 to 2 movies per weeknight, and then on Saturday, watch whatever movies were left while I was decorating for Christmas. It would be fun. It would be like, oh, I'm just dedicating this week to Hallmark movies and it's just going to be a laugh. So delightful. I decorated last year while watching the TTCHFCCU, so I thought it would just be a fun new Christmas tradition. It was a perfect plan. It was a respectable plan. But alas, you know what they say about best laid plans. And when I typed that into my script, I did not know what they said. What they actually say is the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. It's adapted from a poem called To a Mouse by Robert Burns. Anyway, long story short, I started organizing the movies in a list to watch based on release date. And as I did so, I realized a good chunk of the ones that said royal in the title came out between 2020 and 2024. And I was like, I'm trying to dig deep into Hallmark's lore here. Why are so many of these coming out just probably, honestly, they probably made a whole bunch of royal Christmas movies that said royal when Meghan and Harry got married because of the influx of, because it was trending. It was trending to have royal. That's not what we're talking about right here. Anyway, I knew that there was a movie called A Princess for Christmas that I had seen several times over the years. And I was like, oh, well, when did that one come out? And I started dating the other movies that did not have royal in the title. And I realized that if I skipped the movies that didn't say royal in the title, I might miss crucial Christmas lore. And I couldn't risk that. So what ended up happening was, with Thanksgiving being so late and traveling back and forth and making sure I have time to film and edit this movie, what it came down to was I was going to need to watch 18 Hallmark Royal Christmas movies in 6 days. And I think 18 Royal Hallmark Christmas movies in 6 days might have been too many. Let's get into it. Okay, so first of all, I should have documented my wild spree, but I didn't, okay? That would have been funny, and if I'd had any forethought or any concept of planning, that would have been a good journey to follow. But I don't think my mind had truly wrapped itself around what 18 Royal Hallmark Christmas movies in 6 days really was, okay? The mind did not begin to comprehend what I was doing to myself until about movie 9. And that's when I started getting some real-time clips of myself as my brain started to feel like it was on Christmas fire. And so I'll include those where I can. But with that out of the way, there is a piece of hair on my face. It's on my face. And okay, I have blush all over. I wanted to look Christmas flushed. It's just as bad as it was last year when I wore this stupid sweater, and I'm not even wearing the hat. With that out of the way, I think the best place to start is to provide an outline for the 3 Hallmark Royal Christmas movie templates. While there are a few films in this 18 movie spree that break the mold, most of these films fall somewhere in these 3 categories, and from there I can break down each film a little quicker and just highlight what makes them unique. Here's how it breaks down. A spunky American woman from somewhere in the Northeast, Buffalo, Brooklyn, Boston, Philadelphia, Manhattan, she makes her way to Europe for whatever reason makes sense for that specific spunky Northeastern American woman. When she makes it to whatever small European country she was headed to, she will shortly thereafter meet the prince. In most cases, and this is very important, she will not realize he's a prince right away. This allows her to charm and disarm the prince with her frank, refreshing, and open personality. He will be dazzled by how different she is from all the other people who typically fawn over him, or more accurately, his crown. And he'll orchestrate some way for them to meet again. Now, sometimes it's orchestrated on the prince's side, sometimes they meet again by chance, sometimes the prince is even dating the woman already, but he just has been lying about who he is the whole time. But eventually, she will find out that he is royalty and she is invited to the Christmas castle. Here, she will engage in a variety of Christmas activities, Christmas-tivities, if you will, tree decorating, cookie baking, snow angels, snowball fights, sleigh riding, etc., and royal activities like marveling at the crown molding, getting excited over her big fancy bedroom, bonding with the help because the bald eagle in her brain won't let her be blinded by class distinction, and of course, attending fancy state dinners or formal tea parties in which she gets confused by the numerous forks or says something outrageously American that offends half the aristocracy. Our spunky American heroine will always have someone that disapproves of her already established relationship with the prince or their burgeoning romance, and there is often also a young, wealthy, aristocratic woman of marriageable age who the prince is either already dating, everybody thinks they should be dating, or he is already betrothed to be arranged married to, even though he has no romantic feelings towards her, of course. The loudest voice in the chorus against the spunky American and her European prince is, more often than not, the reigning queen, though there are rare instances where the king is still living, or perhaps a chancellor of sorts might pop up. Also, sometimes there's just a random servant who really likes class distinctions, who tries to warn them off, but mostly it's the reigning queen. Now, eventually, the reactions and attitude of the assembled aristocracy, paired with the outspoken negative opinion of whoever is closest to the prince, and the sight of the prince with a woman more suited to his station in life, makes the spunky American and the prince realize that a love like theirs is too difficult, too challenging, and they can't be together because they come from two entirely different worlds. This realization often comes before, during, or directly after the inevitable Christmas ball, in which our Northeastern American heroine has her Cinderella moment and dazzles the entire ballroom in her Christmas finery. The prince and the American will part for a time, heartbroken but wise to the way the world works, until they realize that true love is worth any struggle, and then they will reunite and share a Christmas kiss. The end. Then there is the Hallmark Royal Christmas movie Secundus. I looked up what came after prime in Latin, and it's Secundus, or that's what the Google search told me. Anyway, this is the second most common that you'll see. It is very, 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 very similar to what I just laid out, essentially identical in every way, but with one small crucial difference. Rather than a Christmas prince, the royal in question, oh baby, he's a Christmas king. That's a man we're dealing with. Now, this is not to say there aren't Christmas kings in the prime template. Every square is a rectangle, but every rectangle is not a square. Do you get what I'm saying? You can always tell the difference because a prime prince will be a prince when the two characters meet. The Christmas ball might be replaced by a Christmas coronation, wherein he will become the king, but the important part is he is not a king when a prime movie starts. In the HRC Secundus template... In the HRC Secundus template, the Christmas king is an established ruler with a few years of experience reigning under his belt already. And this is the important part, he will have lost both his wife, the mother of his child, and his father, the king, before him, meaning that he will be both a widow and a single dad by the time he assumes the throne. In this case, the spunky Northeastern American woman is usually a nanny or in some other way becomes a mother figure to the child. Finally, there is Hallmark Royal Christmas movie Tertius. This is a sort of baby's day out plot where it focuses more, oh, there's something in my eye, oh no! It's the eye that's all bloody, by the way. I don't know if you can see it. Good, it's not showing up that much. Like 2 weeks ago, not even 2 weeks ago, a week ago, I was just looking at my eyeball as I was in the mirror and I said, hey, there's a little red dot on there. What's going on? And then I looked the next morning and my eye was half full of blood. Do you want to see it? Do you want to see? Sorry, I'm rubbing that eye right now because there is definitely something inside of it. But do you want to see a picture of what happened to me? I'll show it to you. I will. Here's your warning. I'm about to show it to you. Okay, there it was. Finally, there is Hallmark Royal Christmas movie Tertius. This is a sort of baby's day out plot, okay? It focuses more on the royal as the main character rather than the spunky American woman, and it follows the royal as they experience the real world outside of their castle. This template is probably the least common, but when we are privileged enough to witness it, the royal in question will be visiting some northeastern American city, often New York City, of course. And this is how the royal will bump into their spunky northeastern American paramour. The royal will be visiting America on state business, but they will slip away for a period of time to try and experience real life, keeping their identity secret, of course. Meet a down-to-earth American that they will fall in love with, but their budding relationship will be challenged in some way when their royal identity is revealed. Now, the reveal can be what the entire movie is leading towards and the main cause for suspense throughout, or it could be a setup for a few fun jokes and a way to build a bond between the royal and the commoner, and in that case, the identity is revealed rather early on in the movie. Now, after a variety of outings on the town and Christmas tivities, the two will fall in love, only to realize, of course, that it doesn't make sense for them to be together, their lives are too difficult, they're from two different worlds, etc. There will be some sort of Christmas ball in the city or Christmas event that the royal must return to in their small European nation for, but both will ultimately realize that true love is worth the challenge and be reunited, and they will Christmas kiss the end. We start off with the very first one, A Princess for Christmas, which came out in 2011. Now, this movie is absolutely a Hallmark Christmas prime. Beat for beat, this is the actual Hallmark. Oh! Okay, we start with A Princess for Christmas. This is a prime template, obviously. I think it might be the prime template since it is the earliest of the Hallmark Royal Christmas movies. So in this movie, it's almost Christmas and Jules Daly, an antique saleswoman and clock repairman from Buffalo, by the way, is just trying to get through the day. Any day. Her sister and brother-in-law both recently passed away, and she now has custody of their 2 kids, Milo, a rebellious teen who's acting out by committing petty crimes, and Maddie, a little girl who keeps getting into trouble and making big messes. Jules loses her job, the economy making antique sales and clock repairs not a priority, on the same day that her nanny quits. And on that same day, a British man named Paisley Winterbottom shows up and extends an invitation for Jules, Milo, and Maddie to spend Christmas at Castleberry Hall, located just outside Liechtenstein.
Paisley Winterbottom.
And I'm here to invite all 3 of you to spend Christmas at Castleberry Hall.
Because you see, Charles, the brother-in-law and dead father, was the son of landed gentry, a duke, and the duke did not approve of his son marrying an American commoner, and he cut the son off. But now that a terrible tragedy has been wrought, he wants to meet his grandchildren. So after refusing a check with comically large print for traveling funds, but accepting the tickets that are unceremoniously flung through the mail slot, Jules and the kids travel to Castleberry Hall, where they meet Ashton. Now, she doesn't initially realize that Ashton's a prince. She knows he's the son of a duke, but then they're like, oh yes, Prince Ashton. And she goes, you're a prince? And he's like, yes, on my mother's side. So what follows is 87 minutes of charming Christmas castle fluff. The duke is bitter and against Christmas until Jules smiles at him a whole bunch and purchases a Christmas tree. There's Christmas shopping and cookie making, and the duke hires a ballet instructor and a rock and roll guitar teacher so that the kids can learn lessons. How long are they there for? I don't know. Life has taught me that the days are long, but time is short. I don't know how they squeezed all of this into everything.
Let's see what you get.
And there's also this horrible dance moment.
Terribly sorry to interrupt your little, ghetto dance.
But the uptight staff is charmed and disarmed by Jules' perpetually cheerful yet wise outlook on life. Ashton gets to bond with his niece and nephew. The movie has a very slice of life feel. Like when you're watching this, there's no real sense of urgency because they really are just there to spend Christmas with the Duke. And that's what they do. Like it's a very gentle progression through the movie, very slice of life. And all seems to be going swimmingly for our lovebirds until she overhears what she thinks is an egregious insult, but it's really just a misunderstanding. She decides to leave to go home early and, the kids will get sent behind her a few days later because she figures she's not wanted, and her dress got ruined when a maid was ironing it, so she has nothing to wear to the Christmas ball. But the staff, which she bonded with, discovers her early departure, and they go find her at the train station where they surprise her with a beautiful dress that everyone on the staff pitched in to get for her, and it's actually very sweet. The prince on his mom's side, Ashton, breaks up with his horrible snooty girlfriend, declares his love for Jules, the Duke is in support of her too, Santa shows up, there are fireworks and a wedding, and after the wedding, she's like, are we gonna be king and queen? And he's like, yes, we're gonna be king and queen of Castleberry, and it's like, why didn't you ask that earlier? But whatever. Very chill, slice of life. I liked that it had like a very charming like narrator at the beginning and end to sort of give it this storybook feel. A couple of things to note. The prince is an exceedingly young Jamie from Outlander. Like he's a baby, but he's definitely Jamie Fraser. And like I said, he has the title of prince, which he got on his mother's side, even though his dad is only a duke. But Jules calls him the Prince of Castleberry. So from here on, we have to assume that the country is Castleberry, and that is where Castleberry Hall is located, and the country of Castleberry and its hall is located near Liechtenstein. At this point, there's no knowing how this is going to progress. In 2011, the mainstream concept of a connected cinematic universe was only for the first time being teased by Marvel, so we'll have to see how it goes. But in terms of the TTCHFCCU, I would say that there's so far nothing to add. The little girl and Jules both have Hallmark green eyes, and they have dark hair, so it's inconclusive. I will be keeping track of the TTCHFCCU this whole time, or I'll mention it in passing, but having watched all 18 movies, there's no connection, unfortunately. That thread is, I can answer you that right now. There's no connection. Okay, so Next, we go to A Royal Christmas, which is a very early Lacey Chabert Christmas movie. It's not her first, but it is her second Hallmark one. So for this one, Lacey Chabert plays Emily Taylor, spelled Taylor. She is the daughter of Taylor, spelled like the profession, and she is an aspiring designer from Philadelphia with a wonderful boyfriend who loves pancakes and BLTs, and he's just a normal guy. They're all geared up to spend their first Christmas together in Philadelphia as a couple when Leo gets a phone call that ruins their plans. It turns out he does have to actually go home for Christmas, which is totally fine, but there's one other thing he neglected to mention.
I'm Prince Leopold of Cordinia.
A small sovereign state near the south of France. So he's got some royal duties that his mother, the queen, won't let him out of, but he invites Emily to join him. His mother happens to be Dr. Quinn, medicine woman, and she's reading a newspaper. Now, I paused on this newspaper because I wanted to make sure I picked out any subtle clues. And what I learned was if you want to
delete this text and replace it with your own, click on this text box and hit Control-A, and then delete key. If your story doesn't quite fit, just indicate at the end of the column where the story will continue. Why would you give us such a clear shot if you're going to just have Control-Alt-Delete in all caps 87 times?
Nothing in this newspaper, not the young politician or the total eclipse that had the nation wondering if we're the only life in this universe, has any bearing on the story. But we do learn that Petulia is a country on good terms with Cordinia because their sheik brought presents. Now, I went through and I paid attention to all of the countries and I did as best I could trying to figure out where their location was. And it never matters because none of the countries are ever mentioned in relation to each other. So that's another thing that's just not tied in. It's very frustrating. Then we have another 70 minutes of the 87-minute runtime of a fish swimming around in royal waters in this beautiful little sovereign state on the Mediterranean where
The last time Cordinia ever got snow was over 40 years ago. The Cordinian Christmas miracle.
there's Christmas shopping and pre-ball waltz lessons, and there are moments where the two lovebirds are unbearably goofy, but nowhere near as bad as the horrible gangster dance moment from the last movie. We never hit those levels of cringe again, I am happy to say. It gets bad sometimes, but never as bad as that. Throughout it all, Dr. Queen Royal Medicine Mama is trying to destroy her son's relationship and set him up with her clone. Maybe the two women are identical, and they even say it in the movie.
What boy wants to marry his mother?
Emily, meanwhile, bonds with the servants and the orphans in the town square. There have always and forever will be orphans in the town square for these American women to bond with. And they actually say half orphan in it, which is hilarious to me because I used the term half orphan last year when describing some of the couples in the TTCHFCCU. These two half-orphans need to get home to Tulsa, Oklahoma for Christmas, and these two half-orphans cannot stop meeting like this. Meanwhile, Natasha, the mother's clone, tries to work her way back into Leo's heart unsuccessfully, all culminating, of course, in the beautiful Christmas ball with the gorgeous dress reveal, and Emily does marvelously until she slips away to the kitchen because Leo is dancing with Natasha, who managed to weasel her way onto the dance floor with him, and her freewheeling American spirit and, hunger makes her decides to teach the staff how to make American-style hoagies while a massive ball is going on that's already catered and has a bunch of food.
Oh, you know what we need? Bologna.
Oh, we have mutton.
Okay.
So the queen comes in, sees what they're doing, she fires the two staff members who were helping her, and she tells Emily to her face that she does not belong. And Emily, feeling horrible about the fact that she just lost these two people their livelihood, goes into the ballroom, sees Leo in his element, a true prince with Natasha elegant and refined by his side, and decides his mom is right and starts packing. So Leo is like, no, I love you, I want to marry you. And she's like, listen, if it was just Leo and Emily, I would, but I don't fit into your world. I don't want to have to be someone I'm not, and I'm proud of who I am and my family. And then she closes the ring box. Very powerful stuff. And see, the queen overheard. And one thing we learned about the queen is that she almost ran away with her true love, who is heavily implied to be the butler, but ultimately chose duty over her heart, and she's always thought that her son should do the same. But seeing Emily be brave enough to stay true to herself made her realize that she wants her son, the prince, to be happy, and she gives him her blessing, and then they all go to Philadelphia, and he proposes, and she accepts, and they get Christmas married, and it snows again, a Cordinia Christmas miracle. Okay, so if we're keeping track, the death toll in this Hallmark Christmas series so far is up to 4 because the 2 parents were dead in the previous movie, and Emily in this is a half orphan, as I stated. And I'm pretty sure the king is out of the picture and also dead, and so the prince has also a half orphan, meaning the death toll in 2 movies deep is to 4. Is this Lacey Chabert's very first Christmas movie, or at least Hallmark Christmas movie? I did look into it. It's not. It's actually her 5th Christmas movie, but only the 2nd Hallmark one. She was in 3 Christmas movies with theatrical releases: Black Christmas, Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, and a movie called A Holiday Heist, and one other Hallmark movie called Matchmaker Santa. So she was already on her way to becoming a true queen of Christmas. And now I just have to say, Lacey Chabert Christmas Cinematic Universe, a video for another time. Connections to the TTCHFCCU that we know are pointless. 1, she has dark hair and eyes, but the prince does have sort of a eyes of a Hallmark green. We also have to keep in mind that Lacey herself was in the TTCHFCCU in time for us to come home for Christmas. Now, the signs aren't as clear, but it was around this point, very early on, I was starting to try and theorize theories that ultimately come to nothing. But both of the princes in each movies had the light eyes and sort of lighter hair, and they had moms who had lighter hair and light eyes. Now, none of it was the right Hallmark green exactly, and it wasn't the correct blonde either, but maybe, out on the fringes, it's not as accurate. It doesn't have to be as exact as it is in the very concentrated pocket parent universe of the TTCHFCCU, right? But I was starting to think maybe male Hallmark green eyes, their Christmas gauntlet is to be a Christmas prince, and they have to find a spunky American woman, something along those lines. And in those cases, the female Hallmark green eyes who helps guide them together is often in the role of antagonist, as mother or betrothed. But and I think this was a fun theory to start out with. It doesn't really pan out toward the end, but I just wanted to mention it. Now we move into Once Upon a Holiday, and it's a Christmas twist. I would say that the last 2 movies were definitely Hallmark Prime. This one is Hallmark Tertius. The first unique thing is we are following a princess as our female lead, not a commoner. Katie is the 17th princess of Montserrat, and she's in New York City for a few short days before she has to return home for the traditional Christmas festival that the royal family always presides over. So you can see clearly why this is a Tertius template. And because Katie is princess, she has many duties and responsibilities and a very full schedule. So full, in fact, that they can't even squeeze a single hour in for her to go to a photography exhibit. See, when she was little, she and her mother would always go to New York City for Christmas, and during one such childhood Christmas, Katie's mother gave her a camera, the same camera that Katie's mother had when she was a little girl. This ignited a love of photography, which is what Katie went on to study in college, but all that nonsense needs to be set aside now that she has taken over the throne. And she has taken over the throne because she is a full orphan. Both parents are gone in a plane crash, and now her life is nothing but duty and loyalty to the crown. But when she meets an old friend of her mother's, he distracts her clipboard-wielding aunt for just long enough that Katie is able to slip away and explore
New York City.
Almost immediately, she is robbed by a couple of Christmas crooks, losing her camera and her purse, and this is witnessed by our hero, Jack, a sort of Hallmark movie Jeff Winger, and the rare American hero as opposed to spunky Northeastern American heroine. Heroine. He's a little quippy, but he's kind, and he used to be a real estate big shot with lots of money until he realized he hated his life and he wanted to renovate homes and work with his hands, and his girlfriend at the time dumped him for following his dreams, and now he's just kind of closed off, and he's still nice, but he's like, no romance for me. But he tries to chase after the muggers, but they get away, and he's like, well, if you need to call the cops, I've got a witness, and she's like, thank you, but she doesn't want to call the cops because then they would alert all of the royal guards looking for her that she's out on the town and she has no phone or money. So the two of them part ways, and through a series of happy accidents, the two of them meet again outside of a magic shop hosting a Christmas party for a bunch of Santa Clauses, and they end up spending several happy days together. He gives her a room in the house he's renovating. His sister, who owns a thrift store, comes and brings her some clothes.
Hey, editing summer here. I just wanted to make a quick note that... Oh, I didn't know you were doing that. Just wanted to make a quick note that this is a unique scene because there is no Christmas dress reveal in this movie, and instead this thrift store outfit, which is a very cute outfit, is presented as the like dress moment, the slow regal like her walk towards him and his look of astonishment. It's very interesting that this is the there is no dress, but there is this outfit reveal. And I think that's, it plays into the Tertius template.
And they end up spending several happy days.
Oh, also, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm recording all of these clips with my phone and the computer screen because I haven't figured out a way to actually like pull clips from TV shows when it's on a platform like Prime that doesn't let you screen record. So you'll see my shadow haunting you in every single one of these clips. And we just have to be okay with that, all right? We're just going to look at each other in the eye. We're going to hold each other's hands. And we're going to say, this isn't a big deal. And we'll move past it, and we'll hug each other, and we'll go to a movie and eat popcorn, and then we'll get a dog, and we'll name it Sparky. Okay.
And they end up spending several happy days together, falling in love, decorating Christmas trees, and eating
New York City.
hot dogs, while she slyly dodges her security team as it scours the city for the 17th Princess of Montserrat. But a single fly in the Christmas pudding, Jack's sister's boyfriend, a down-on-his-luck reporter who keeps getting garbage fluff assignments and just wants one scoop, he realizes that the princess is missing and joins the hunt, only to find that the missing princess is the woman he just had family dinner with the night before with his girlfriend and his girlfriend's brother and his girlfriend's brother's date, the 17th Princess of Montserrat. The cat's out of the bag, and Katie, who gave herself the name
Katie Holiday.
is revealed to be a princess, and Jack, while initially thrown, utilizes the help of his magician friend and his League of Santas to provide a distraction from the security team for just long enough for Katie to finally get out of the gallery. They part ways, seemingly forever, but George, her mom's childhood friend, says, Montserrat is beautiful this time of year. And when Katie, accepting her duties and responsibilities as princess, arrives at the Montserrat Christmas Festival, she opens her door, and who should be there to help her from the car than Jack, who proposes a new Christmas tradition that they spend all of their time together and then they Christmas kiss. The end. Okay, so death toll. We're now up to 6 because Katie has lost both. Yow! Okay, so my computer is taking forever to save the file, but I really need to go check on a dog and then go watch Wicked for a third time. And so I just need to finish where I am so I can move on to the next movie when I get back. But, okay, things to keep in mind. The death toll is now up to 6 because both of Katie's parents are dead. I don't know what Jack's parents... They're not really mentioned, but I don't remember if they said it either way. So just to be safe, we'll just keep the death toll at 6. 2 more to the death toll. A couple of things to note. Fangs Fogarty from Riverdale shows up as a hotel clerk at some point. And this country is given no location, but we must assume that it is somewhere European per the mountains and the architecture. And something to keep in mind is that Katie's mom fell in love with and married a prince. Now, it's never stated outright, but I think the mom might have been... Oh. I forgot I'm screencast. Okay. Jump scare. Okay, so Katie's mom, it is clearly stated that Katie's mom fell in love with and married a prince. Now, it's never stated outright, but I think her mom might have been American since they always come back to New York City for Christmas. And they would say that Katie was just like her mom in that her mom would run away sometimes and the whole Crown's Guard would have to go find the queen because Katie's mom would just need some space as well sometimes. So what it seems like we're seeing here is the result of the sort of union we've witnessed in the last two movies, when true love prevails and a wild American rose takes root at the palace. So Katie has that American eagle in her, warring for freedom from her royal duties. TTCHFCCU connection, this is where I was starting to realize, I think, that nothing was really going to stick. There were people who had light hairs, but it was a dark-eyed man. He had dark eyes. Katie herself had brown eyes. So if anything, she was part of the jazzy verse. But the closest thing I can think is maybe her mom might have been a Hallmark green eyes. She has light hair, not the right kind, like not the bright blonde, but she does have light hair. And in this particular photo, they look green, even though in the shot of the mom, they looked very hazel. I'm beginning to fear that there is no connection, but we persevere. Okay. Okay, so I'm back from my break and night has fallen now. Okay, so next we're getting into A Crown for Christmas. And this one was fun. In my notes, I said this one was my favorite so far. I also acknowledged that I had 16 movies left to watch, but it's up there. Having finished all the movies, I say that that's correct. I enjoyed A Crown for Christmas. All right, can I make this bigger? There we go. Mama can't see without her glasses. I'm just going to screenshot for you real fast what we got going on here so you can see. My eyes are blind, but I can't wear my glasses because if I do, you'll see the light. And I can't let that happen. Well, I want you to see the light. Jesus loves you, but I don't want you to see the ring light. Anyway, Brooklyn native Allie has been caring for her two siblings ever since the death of their parents. They're all adults now, but they are still a tight-knit unit. The youngest brother is in college, the middle sister wants to be an actress, and Allie is an artist who paints mostly for herself at this point. I just want you guys to know that the tree's real. While Allie's pushing a housekeeping cart that is decorated with poinsettias, as someone who worked in housekeeping, I can tell you, never once did I ever decorate the housekeeping cart. That's where the toilet paper was kept. I had other things to do than do that, but this is a Hallmark movie. And if a construction site will be decorated like it was in Once Upon a Holiday, yeah, okay, there's going to be poinsettias on the housekeeping cart. Anyway, Allie bumps into a handsome gentleman, and by way of apology, she gives him a handful of chocolates and some soaps and a sewing kit, and he's just charmed by this behavior. But mere moments later, when Allie is trying to finish the floor all on her own because her sister got a surprise audition that she wasn't expecting, she and her sister both get fired for not moving fast enough and not completing the rooms at a quick enough pace. Allie getting fired is witnessed by the butler or assistant to this handsome gentleman that we don't know much about other than that he's charmed by sewing kits, and he's moved to compassion by the fact that Allie had been on the point of returning a very valuable watch when she was fired and is therefore the model of an upstanding citizen. Anyway, so butler slash attaché Fergus brings a $5,000 check to Allie as a thank you, but when she doesn't accept, he offers her instead a job as a nanny. Her siblings encourage her to go. It's a lot of money and she'd get to go to Europe to do so, so she accepts. She travels to Europe where she learns she's going to be nannying for a princess. And the man that she bumped into in the hallway, oh, that is King Maximilian III of Windshire. Now, I don't know if it's because, as I said, I've done my fair share of housekeeping, or if it's because I'm 31 years old and wouldn't mind getting swept away to Europe and beguiling the king of a small Christmas nation with my charm and joie de vivre, but this one was working for me. You've got all the classic fish out of royal water elements. She bonds with the staff because she doesn't let classism stand in the way of humanity. And the king takes her horseback riding and almost kisses her, but it's not Christmas yet, so they can't kiss. So she's got sort of this like maid princess Cinderella thing going on. And it turns out the princess that she's nannying for, who's really rambunctious and has driven away tons of nannies, that little girl ends up really liking her too. And so we get sort of like Parent Trap vibes as the daughter tries to finagle a relationship between the nanny and the king because she doesn't like the other person who's vying for the king's affection, which is one Lady Celia. Apparently, the king and Lady Celia were supposed to get arranged married years ago, decades at this point. But the king met his wife, a fellow royal, in America. Like, for some reason, both royals were in America at the same time and eloped with her. And then they had a child, and then she died, and then the king died, and he became a widowed king and single dad. And now Lady Celia is back for Arranged Marriage Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. This is a real tree, by the way. I just wanted everybody to know that. It's all real. Okay. But what Lady Celia didn't expect was a two-pronged attack. On one side, she's got an American nanny who's charmed and disarmed and delighted the entire castle, and on the other side, she's got the princess trying to push the nanny and king into each other's arms. But the king is, of course, torn between his duty to the throne and the advice of his worm-tongue-esque chancellor, who should just marry Lady Celia himself if he likes her so much. So he's torn between that, and he's torn between his duty as a father and his duty to his heart. When I was watching this movie, I was like, that's a king. That's a man. I believe his struggle so often in these movies that I've seen 3 of so far. The prince is like, oh, or even the princess is like, I don't want the responsibility. I want my life to be my own life. It's just too much for me. Can't I be normal for once? It's so difficult having everything planned and plotted for you every moment of the day. Why doesn't anybody see that I'm a person who enjoys BLTs, or I enjoy close-up magic? That comes up in one of them. We haven't seen that one yet, but it does. This guy, he was like, I've got a duty, and I probably should stick to that duty. And you could see that he was struggling with it, but we were getting really, really, really close to the end. And he was like on the point of proposing to Lady Celia. Like, they are at the Christmas ball where he is planning on announcing his engagement, and he has the ring in his little coat pocket, and he's gonna do it. But it's not until he reaches in, grabs the box and opens it that he realizes the ring is actually gone. And when Lady Celia sees the ring is gone, she of course goes up to Allie and she's like, you're poor and from Brooklyn. I bet you stole the ring. And Allie's like, I didn't take anything, but I can clearly see I'm causing issues, so I'm just gonna go home. And Lady Celia's like, yeah, you should go home because your services aren't needed, and Theodora's getting sent to boarding school. And the chancellor's like,
I think under the circumstances, Miss Evans, leaving now would be best.
So Allie goes upstairs, she starts packing, she goes to talk to Theodora, and Theodora's like, I ruined everything because I took the ring. But when the king discovers that his daughter took the ring, Allie selflessly is like, say that I did it, I've caused enough trouble. And he's like, I left the ring on my dresser. That's what we're gonna say. And so Allie leaves and she's just walking through the snow by herself, like wandering through the town square, trying to heal her heart and just be willing to let go of this silly, stupid dream she had of falling in love with a king. But then the king shows up on his horse. Seeing Allie's kindness and her interaction with his daughter, it just makes him realize that he cannot go against his heart in this matter. Duty, sure, he's been a king for a long time, but he's got to go with his heart this time. So he finds Allie and he proposes to her while the snow is gently falling down.
What about the throne?
Survived 1,000 years. It can survive a girl from Brooklyn.
And then the Christmas kiss and everyone is happy. Okay, so a couple of things to note. The death toll at this point is up to 9, possibly 10. Allie's parents are both dead. The king lost his wife and then his father shortly after. And since his mother is never mentioned, I think she might also be dead. So we're going to say 5. This is so far one of my favorite Christmas dresses. And one thing that I discovered about myself the more that I watch these movies is that I kind of agree with all the naysayers. Like, I do think that there's a big difference in the kinds of life that these two people have been leading. And unless the woman is prepared, or the man, I guess, in Once Upon a Holiday, unless they're prepared to become a public figure and have their entire life lived in the spotlight and have their life change to meetings and ribbon cuttings and delegations and shaking babies' hands and everything like that, you're gonna have to give up your dreams of being a seamstress / baker or any of the career goals you had. Like, that is I'm sorry if I'm a brunette who would get dumped immediately because I'm apparently business minded, but those are things to consider. And sometimes the story does not do a good enough job making it seem like true love can conquer all, because It just sometimes it just feels too convenient. But this was one where like Allie didn't have much going on in her real life. Like she'd been struggling and setting stuff aside and giving up her own dreams so that her brother and sister could thrive. And then we weren't working with some boy prince who didn't know how to be responsible. No, it was a king who knew his duty. He'd already been ruling the country reasonably well. He'd married a royal and conceived an heir to the throne. And the only reason he was going to marry Lady Celia at all was because the chancellor was like, a royal wedding would boost the country's morale. Want to know what else would boost the country's morale? A real life Cinderella story where a maid becomes a princess. This guy, King Maximilian, has showed himself to be a model royal and an honorable man, and I do not think him marrying the woman of his choosing is going to be a conflict of interest or have him shirking his responsibilities in the slightest. What I will say, though, is taking a look at the pictures on his desk, it certainly did seem like maybe his dead wife looks a lot like Brooklyn Alley. Not like a Brooklyn alley. His wife did not look like an alley in Brooklyn. She looked like Nanny Alley. Nanny Alley from Brooklyn. Anyway, when it comes to the TTCHFCCU, at this point I was like, oh, the king kind of has the right colored eyes, and the chef who gives Allie her dress for the ball that she used to wear when she was younger, and now she's, she doesn't have use for it because she had a big crush on Fergus, but it didn't work out. And so but her and Fergus maybe will work out now. It could be argued that she meets the criteria, but so far it just seems to be widows and widowers and spunky Americans all the way down. All right, now we are talking about a royal New Year's Eve. This one is admittedly a bit of an outlier since it's a royal New Year's, but it does actually start on Christmas Eve and then goes all the way through to the New Year's Eve ball. So an aspiring fashion designer named Caitlin, who's from New York City, she gets discovered when she wears one of her own designs to a work party, and Lady Isabel, the soon-to-be fiance and current girlfriend of Prince Geoffrey of a country whose name I cannot remember, and I'm not sure if it was ever said or if he just said, yes, I'm from a country no one's ever heard of. But I didn't feel like going back and trying to figure it out because this is a New Year's movie and it's not Christmas, so it doesn't really matter. Anyway, Lady Isabel wants Caitlin to design a dress for the New Year's ball, and it is tradition in the royal family for the princes to propose to their paramours at the New Year's ball in whatever country they are from. But Caitlin's boss was hoping to launch her daughter's design career. I think her name was like Janelle or Michelle or Janice, something like that. So the boss saddles Caitlin with planning the entire ball so that she has no time at all to make the dress. So while Caitlin's trying to juggle everything, she spends more and more time with Prince Geoffrey, and the two fall in love. Now, I don't think I mentioned earlier, but this one does fall, even though it is not a Christmas movie, it does fall more into the tertius. It falls into the tertius template where it's sort of a baby's day out kind of deal, because at the beginning Prince Geoffrey goes on and on about wanting to experience real life and call me Jeff while we're in the city, not Geoffrey. I would just want to walk around the city and have a coffee and not have people fawn over me because I'm a prince. I just don't want that, Lady Isabel. I don't want that. Oh, my word. This was deeper V than I was expecting. Nessa, I've got something to confess, a reason why, well... Okay. Caitlin's boss sabotages the dress's debut by having the design department mock up a copy of the dress and releasing that to the press so that it doesn't seem like a one of a kind design, and tries to be like, Caitlin stole the design, so you should take my daughter's designs. And wait, no, she's just a hoity-toity New Yorker. She's like, Caitlin, it appears, stole someone else's design and tried to pass it off as her own. You should go with my daughter's designs because she's much better than stupid, stinky Caitlin. Or Lady Isabel is like, Caitlin, I cannot believe you would do this to me. I asked for a one-of-a-kind design, and Caitlin's like, please, this is a one-of-a-kind design. Anyway, all this happens. Geoffrey's like, I have to call off the wedding, Lady Isabel. I'm not going to propose to you. And she's like, why, Geoffrey? And he's like, it's because I don't love you and I don't think you love me. And the king is like, hey, you should be happy if you want to be. And then they New Year's kiss, the end. The death toll, same. I don't think anyone actually died, but also this is not a Christmas movie, so we can't add anything to the death count. And all I could think of the whole time that I was watching this movie is that they kept saying Jeffrey the same way I did in my TikToks that went slightly viral. I had a few TikToks. One, it got like 4 million views, which is not, in the grand scheme of things. There are videos that have done better. But I would wear this Snapchat filter over. I'll just show you an example. Lady Isabel, the whole movie was like,
Jeffrey, this is quite important.
Anyway, okay, TTCHFCCU connection. The main girl, Caitlin, is actually in the TTCHFCCU series. She plays the amnesiac in time for them to come home for Christmas, and she is one of our classic Hallmark Green Eyes. If you've been wondering what I mean this whole time, she is a Hallmark Green Eyes from the Twangyverse. But anyway, I think this one may have been a waste of time, but we persevere. Next, we are going to watch a movie called A Royal Winter. This one is... Let me see. This is a prime. Yes, this is a prime one. It's one of those primes where he becomes king at the end, but he is not a king at the beginning. So a square is always a rectangle, but a rectangle is not always a square. Prince can be a prime prince, even if he becomes king at the end, but he is not a widowed king if he's a single man with no children. I think that makes sense. I think that's an important distinction to make. So we watched the New Year's movie, right? Okay. Probably, I'm pretty sure that was a waste of time, but I thought, hey, I'll stick with the New Year's movie because there are Christmas trees in the background and it started on Christmas Eve. So we at least tangentially passed through Christmas, not a total waste of time, and maybe by seeing how the Hallmark Royals act when it's not Christmas, it can kind of inform what is or is not a standard in the Hallmark Royal Christmas universe, okay? So that's what I was kind of thinking. And then we came to the next movie, which is A Royal Winter. And at this point, I'm just like, every day I stray further from my purpose. First, the New Year's debacle, and now this, because I added this to my list, thinking that they just used the term winter to have a sort of neutral title for people who didn't celebrate Christmas and also didn't celebrate any holiday during the winter and were possibly like, what's a girl to do who doesn't celebrate Christmas or any holidays? Well, you know what? Here's a winter movie for you, for everybody who just I just thought maybe that's what it was. Or I thought it was just going to say winter because they felt like they'd used Christmas or holiday too much, and then it was just going to be a Christmas movie. But I was wondering because they had this little jingle at the beginning where it's like, it's a winter time, it's winter time today, and it's winter. And I was like, oh, are they going to make a whole movie set at Christmas that has everything that's Christmas in it, but not say Christmas ever once at all? And I was very intrigued. But basically, this was very close to a Hallmark Prime plot. It had everything that those do, except none of this was happening at Christmas. The newspaper says it's January 10th. So what on earth am I supposed to do with a movie set in January, on January 10th? There's a woman who jogs past the main character in this. That's because we're fully into New Year's. She's probably one of the only people left in the city who's still trying to do her New Year's resolution of running every day, because we're 10 days into the new year. There's no Christmas lights. There's not a single Christmas tree to be found. And I think the only Christmas lights I did see was like an unlit strand of string lights wrapped around a tree as they panned up during like a crane shot, and a wall of like hanging lights that were in a restaurant alley. And that's something that could be up all year because it's just decoration. Nothing was Christmassy about it. It could have just been lights for light's sake, okay? What a waste of time. Now, I do not understand the concept of a Hallmark Christmas movie where they remove the Christmas and set it on January 10th. At least that's when the movie starts. It's probably January 15th, 18th even, maybe even as far into the year as the 20th by the time this movie's over. I do not understand. You'll never catch me understanding. It didn't make any sense to me. What I will say is that the main character and the prince actually had quite a bit of chemistry. They were both very charming, and I feel like their romance was believable and cute. The prince had this sweet cherub face, like a little angel baby grown up into a man, and I liked watching the two of them fall in love. But I also care very little for the fictional goings-on of tiny little European nations that don't exist unless Christmas is involved in that, because I mean, sure, he's having a coronation and he wants to invite all of the townspeople instead of just the royals, and she's got like this job interview she's waiting to hear back from. They said they'd get back to her in 2 weeks, and so it's like, okay, yeah, but like a top of the year coronation and waiting to hear back from a job, those are real life boring blah 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 any day of the year struggles that they're and like, what am I watching this for? Okay, like, I don't understand why you couldn't have made this exact same movie and have it be set at Christmas. They regular early top of the year kiss and everything's happy or whatever. This movie was an interminable slog. Like, it just kept going. It was 84 to 87 minutes, exactly like every other movie that came out, but there was nothing pressing that made the movie seem to move forward. Like, the deadlines were the end of her vacation and this coronation that was happening on some unspecified day in the very near future. There wasn't Christmas, there wasn't Christmas Eve, there wasn't any hustle and bustle. It just felt long and boring, even though honestly, when I like look at it objectively, it was probably one of the cuter little romances. Like, they felt believable as a romantic couple, but it should have been set at Christmas. It should have been set at Christmas. She even wore a red dress, and I don't know what possessed them to make a movie set on January 10th. I will never understand it. It will never make sense to me. But what I will say is, one thing I've noticed in these not Hallmark Christmas movies is that the death toll is not as high in these. Like, she had both her parents. We got to see both of them on screen. TTCHFCCU, I'm not even bothering with for this one, because this was not even, there wasn't even a Christmas tree. So this is nowhere in the arena of a Hallmark Christmas movie. It was just a Hallmark early to late January movie. Oh, okay. Next. Costume change. It just felt like time. Well, we're having a lot of movies, so I just thought I'd mix it up for some of them. Next, we're looking at Christmas at the Palace, and this one is a classic Secundus if I've ever seen one. It's a widowed king story, and it follows Katie and her best friend as they wrap up an ice skating tour. Now, Katie used to be a famous skater, and she almost made it to the Olympics, but she had an injury and lost her mom and never returned to the rink. Now she simply manages her friend's tour, and her friend is still skating, and their final stop is a beautiful Christmas country called San Sonova. And once they wrap up there, they will return to New Jersey and purchase a rink of their own so they can start training the next generation of, I wrote ballerinas, but I think I meant figure skaters. And when I say a Christmas country, I mean it. We learn that San Sonova was actually founded when a wealthy landowner went out on a cold Christmas Eve night with his men to rescue a small village across the lake that had suffered from an avalanche. And when the landowner didn't return in time, his wife and daughter skated out across the frozen lake, found them snowed in, and led everyone to safety to their giant home. And when spring came, the villagers didn't want to leave this new side of the lake, and they declared the landowner and his wife and daughter as the royal family, and thus San Sonova was created, and they consider Christmas Eve of each year as the anniversary of their country's founding. So this is a country literally founded on Christmas Eve that takes Christmas very seriously. And the king that just died, long live the king of course, was known as the Christmas King, but his son is known as the Grinch King because he, as much as he loves Christmas and his people, he's too practical by half and can't seem to capture the whimsy or the Christmas magic that his father did. One thing I really appreciated about this one is that they just leaned in. They said, you know what? This is the Christmas King of the Christmas country. We're doing a Hallmark Christmas movie and it's about royalty and we're just gonna do what we should. And no pretenses, no No dilly-dallying about trying to say It's not January 10th. Anyway, the widowed king's daughter, the princess, loves ice skating, and she's a skater herself, and she really admires both of the skaters. So she, of course, went to the show in Sansonova, and afterwards, she and her nanny or grandma or somebody go to greet the ballerinas, and they invite Katie and her friend to go back to the palace where there's a private rink. And now at this point, Katie and the king had already bumped into each other once or twice, but of course at that time she didn't realize that he was king, so she got to be a charming, spunky American and sweep him off his feet. After they've been in the palace for a little while, they see the rink and everything, the princess asks if the two of them can put on a skating pageant that tells the story of Sansonova's founding for the people of Sansonova, and after a little bit of persuasion and a giant check being offered to them, they agree. Even though Katie was very much like, I just want to go home, I want to have my first Christmas actually at home, put down roots finally, let's not do it. Ooga booga, whoa, 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 this is a giant check. What I was trying to convey there is like in cartoons when they look at something and their eyes go... And that was what happened when they looked at the big old giant check that they were being offered to do this Christmas pageant. Anyway, so you've got your Christmas dress reveal. This came very early in the movie. They get invited to stay at the palace to do the pageant, and then they're like, hey, we've put some dresses in your room because there's a Christmas tea happening, and then the two of them put the dresses on and go downstairs. Like, no fanfare at all. They're both just in their dresses. But there's also cookies and gifts and decorating and anything and everything one needs in a movie like this to montage time along. And what a royal winter was sorely lacking. And as a fun bonus, Katie's best friend is falling for the king's advisor / best friend, so we're actually getting 2 romances for the price of 1. There's the will they won't they between Katie and the king, there's rumors in the newspapers, there's the king and Katie realizing that they can never be because their lives are too different, only to realize that they must be because they true Christmas love each other. And one thing that I will give this movie is that the 2 main girls had a goal. They were going to buy an ice rink in New Jersey. And they kept bringing that up. And I was like, if the 2 of you say ice rink in New Jersey one more time, when I know one or both of you is going to end up living in Sansonova, we're going to have to start tussling. But what I did actually appreciate was after bringing the ice rink up over and over and over again, the 2 of them do actually buy an ice rink in New Jersey. Like, they finish the pageant and Katie's friend gets injured, so she can't skate. So Katie's going to skate with the princess, and this is going to be her first time out on the ice. But then, can't remember exactly what it is, but probably like our love can never be, so I think I should go home. She decided, no, what it is that they have to make the offer on the skating rink now, and so she has to go home right away to sign the papers. So she bails on the pageant, flies all the way home to New Jersey, signs the papers, and then Katie's best friend is like, Katie, what if you were just a silent partner? Because I think you love the king, and I think you should go back to Sansonova. The 2 best friends of the king and of Katie are going to be in love together and run the New Jersey ice skating rink. Like, that's going to be their new adventure. And so Katie flies back to Sansonova. I don't know how long these flights are supposed to be. I thought it's been Christmas Eve for like the past 4 days, but apparently there was enough time to fly out of Sansonova, across the sea, to New Jersey, sign some legal documents, have a talking to, fly back to Sansonova, and still get there in time to put on her costume as the queen of this Christmas country. That's her role in the pageant. Get on the ice and skate it with the king and his daughter. But what I thought was also cool was they set out 2 goals for the 2 main characters. For Katie, it was buying an ice rink, and for the king, it was redeeming his image in the eyes of his people, because the first thing he is called in the newspaper by his people is a Grinch king. And then halfway through the movie, they're like, is this the King of Hearts? Because he was spotted with Katie. But then after Katie has left, so they think they've gone their separate ways forever, they're doing different paths in life, a newspaper lands on his royal desk and it says, all hail the new Christmas king or something. This is a city, a kingdom, I should say, run entirely by headlines. Headlines only. They might as well just use Twitter, because you get the gist of the news in the headline and nothing else. This kingdom is so well versed in lorem ipsum, because there are many variations of passages of lorem ipsum available, but the majority have suffered alteration in some form. So his image is redeemed. She buys the ice skating rink. Both of them achieve their goals before they both realize, hey, I do really want to be with this person. And they come together to Christmas kiss. Actually, I don't remember if they Christmas kissed in this. I might have been typing on my phone when it happened. So if they Christmas kiss, I will put that clip right here. Death toll. Her mom, one assumes her dad because he's never mentioned at all. The king's mom because she's never mentioned at all. The king's wife and the king's father. Now, I feel like I'm playing a little fast and loose, but they're pretty good at saying if somebody is part of their life or being like, well, you know, mother is spending Christmas in the Maldives. Why would the king's mom not be there if she was alive? So I think it's safe to assume, since everybody in this show everybody in any of these movies is an orphan or a half orphan, that everybody's dead. So we're going to bump the death toll up by 5. TTCHFCCU, this girl is the closest we've come. Oh, I don't think I mentioned. Oh, I think I typed it, but I never actually typed it in the synopsis. What I forgot to mention is that Katie from this movie is the girl from A Royal Winter. It's the same person. If we're trying to find any connection at all, the only thing that I can assume is that I think her name was Sarah in A Royal Winter. January 20th, Sarah declared her undying love for the king of Cordinia, I think. Was that it? Calpurnia? Calpurnia. Okay, so we just have to assume the girl from A Royal Winter has only 1 year later somehow managed to develop a long and storied ice skating career, changed her name, dyed her hair, and now has beguiled the king of another nation. Because it's the same girl in both of them. And if we're looking for connections, I think that's what we have to say, is that she, in the span of less than a year, beguiled 2 kings. Gotta get on her level. I hope you have enjoyed part 1.
Sorry there wasn't more fanfare. I didn't know how to end it. This wasn't my dream. This wasn't the ideal. This wasn't what I wanted. I wanted something different. I wanted to not spend 19 days straight on this video. 19 days, somewhere in the neighborhood of, I'd say like 109, 110 hours. And I've just been sitting here at my desk or watching movies. And I thought, what fun this is. It's not fun anymore. Stop being fun. I'm doing this out of desperation. I still have 5 movies to edit. I have to find all the clips and put it on there before I can even export the Snyder cut of this. It's December 19th. I started this on December 1st. I hope you've enjoyed part 1. I'm sorry. I wanted it to be better. Naughty, fine.